I was wondering, like, how do you take care of yourself, and how do you do this work that is really important but can be, re-traumatizing? And I really appreciated what you said too about, giving your actor like space to go cry after, because I remember I was like, damn, I wish you were my boss. Because I remember, going on TV and talking about missing and murdered Indigenous women, and then like, okay, your deadline's in an hour, and going back to my office and crying by myself. And I didn't have anyone. I didn't have someone like you saying like, that's okay. It's okay to feel that. So yeah, how do you take care of yourself when you're working on those stories?
Oh gosh, I haven't really figured that out yet. But I've gotten better at, it is the deadline thing that's a problem. So like in writing Unsettled, for example, which was also about a woman going home after living, in the city for her whole life and reconnecting with her family. So every episode was like kind of traumatizing to write. And I just knew that I couldn't accept a schedule for that, even though, there was a schedule. So I had to give myself, if someone wanted it in 3 days, I would just have to, say I needed 5. Because I know I'll need a day off between like this scene and this scene, because this one's going to give me like nightmares and I'm going to have to like cry all day and raise my kids. Like, you just need time off, because too much of that stuff, I think, it's not healthy if you don't process it. But again, a lot of the work in itself by doing the writing is also healing. Right? So it's just the very fact that you can write that stuff and like create those characters is healing. Because a lot of it is my own stuff. Right? It's just my own lived experience, and it's just putting it, like, everyone, I think, feels better after you write. So it's a bit of both.
And I wasn't going to bring up that the director of Empire of Dirt was a white guy, but I was wondering about that when I was like, how the heck is this super Indigenous story being directed by a white guy? But I was wondering, like, do you find, like, is there a difference in the projects where you get to work with like an all Indigenous team versus working with folks who aren't Indigenous? Is there like a different supportive feeling on that?
I don't have like a ton of examples. I have like, all my shows that I did for the first like 6 years of my career were all me and my partner, who we were both Native. So it didn't really feel like anything was being compromised, even though at the time our show Moccasin Flats, we had to hire non-Indigenous directors because there weren't any directors. And even though we were working with like a small ABTN at the time for like no money, it was Showcase that, again, wouldn't let me direct. I wanted to direct so badly. So I wasn't allowed to direct that. But non-Native, mostly white guys who with no experience would be able to direct because they went to film school.
Yeah, why weren't you able to direct? You didn't have the experience?
It's just a weird thing that it was just weird that even when my film Empire of Dirt was at the Film Center, I wasn't allowed to direct. And then I kind of ended up bringing Peter on, and when my film wasn't at the Film Center anymore, he was already on, so it was like, I'm not going to ask him to leave. And then Unsettled was a shared experience, very, very challenging, with a non-Indigenous partner. So yeah, my experience is only like the things that really worked are Future History, which I directed by myself, and Little Bird, which it was a miracle that it happened, but we were able to bring on 2 Indigenous female directors to direct all of those episodes, which was the fight of my life. Because I don't know, I think it's just like you just can't not have this story directed by Indigenous people. Like, you just can't. It just shouldn't happen anymore. I mean, it still does.
I have to ask you that question then. What stories do you think non-Indigenous people can tell about us? Can they?
Yeah, I think not about us, but I think there are stories that could definitely be through the lens of anyone, could be told by anyone's lens that is their experience, that involves an Indigenous story. I just don't see why they would want to do that. But I do spend too much time explaining this to, non-Indigenous directors who call me and ask me to connect them with a consultant. And basically the answer is no, don't do it. We're not consultants. If you want to tell the story, then be one of the producers and get a director. Like, if you really want to tell the story and help to raise the money, then hire the right people. Mm-hmm. I just don't think that there's any reason there's lots of other stories to tell. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right. And I think the main problem is we are working to undo very harmful, untrue narratives that are so deeply cemented in the consciousness, specifically like here in North America, that any movement towards like keeping things untrue and harmful is a very bad move, and nobody wants their name attached to that, I don't think.
Yeah.
But I mean, Tyler Sheridan gets away with it on Yellowstone. Pretty much every show that has Native people in it except Reservation Dogs is done by non-Indigenous people. So it's still done. I just think we can do better. Yeah. And we should do better. And it's time to do better, because there's no excuse anymore for pushing us out.
Yeah. Actually, I think I have a good example sort of what you're talking about. And I'm pretty sure David would be okay with me talking about this. I'm working with a settler filmmaker right now, David Paperney, and he makes a lot of biopic documentaries about people. So he went to Cindy Blackstock and he said, I want to make a story about you. And she said, no, make your story. And so now he's where I'm helping on this documentary, and it's about who are all the cogs in the system that allow this violence to continue happening. And so he's talking to, people who work in child welfare, but it's all non-Indigenous people, and and a lot of them saying, like, I'm not actually comfortable with what's happening, but either I'm too young, or I couldn't do anything about it, or, I'm like one person signing this paper, but like, where does that actually go and what does that actually mean? And so I actually thought it was really good of him to, like, he listened to what she said, and he was like, you're right, like, what is my story? And then he went back, and he is also Jewish, and he thought about, his family and where he'd come from, and sort of how do these things happen? And similarly to that history, like, who are all these little cogs? And it's not like every single one of those people is an awful person, but it all, kind of comes together, and it's just this system that feels like impossible to dismantle. Mm-hmm. And so I think that was an example to me of someone who took that and listened. Yeah. And, he's been doing this for a long time, and I was like, you can learn even, it doesn't matter what your age is or how long you've been doing it or what, like, you can take on board these ideas, mm-hmm. and you can change.
That's smart of her to say, and even smarter of him to listen, because you don't want to mess with Cindy Blackstock.
No,
for sure.
No.
But yeah, that's important. Yeah, I will actually steal that and use that too. I don't think it's been effective the way I've been dealing with it. But yeah, that's definitely true. It's I think we need to get to a point even where this actually, I'll promote this. It's hard to read, so sorry for that. But this is a program here, if you wanted to find out more about it, that I'm doing through the Shine Network, which is designed specifically for, the screen sector to understand how to be culturally informed and culturally sensitive when working with Indigenous people. And it talks about those kinds of things, like, this isn't the course, but this is about the course, and we've partnered with the National Screen Institute so that it's actually a certificate course that you can get, so that, let's say, on your production company website or your, your actual production call sheet, you can put the badge that you get when you graduate the course. It's a half an hour course. And that's one of the things that, just pushed me to do this finally, was I cannot deal anymore with the whole hey, join this project and put your name all over it, but only be a consultant. Like, that whole thing has to stop.
They bring you on once they've already done all
like
the creative
we've done
work,
everything, we've done the budget, we've done everything, and this is how we're going to do it, and you be a consultant. So, that inspired this whole course of how do we teach people to be more culturally informed, cultural sensitivity. Every sector has a course like this, except the screen sector. And the screen sector is it's like the Wild West of sectors.
And you said a 30-minute course.
Yeah.
That's so easy.
I know.
Everyone can do that. Come on.